Hello and welcome back to our RD350 series of videos, and today's topic is, it could be a controversial topic because, so let me just, I'm sure you would have understood what the topic is. I've mentioned it in the title. Made in Japan RD, made in India RD. And again, you'll see people, in fact this actually is true about the RX100 as well, but then people quoting exorbitant figures for, oh, this is the 1986 made in Japan RX100, oh, this is the 1983 first lot made in Japan RD. I have one, okay, and I would never say that, you know what, this is a made in Japan RD, give me 5 lakh rupees. I would not say that, but then yeah, there are people who say that. So today we are going to talk about a few things that was our RD350 ever made in Japan. Okay, what is how much how much Japanese content did our RD350s have from the beginning till the end, and also we will address something that almost everyone has incorrectly reported in the past 2 decades, that by the end of the production, almost 100% of the motorcycle, in fact they say that 100% of the RD350 content was localized. Yeah, that I'm sure if you heard that correctly, you would have guessed it. No, 100% 100% of content was never localized. So that's the first myth that we've busted. Expect a few more. So yeah, let's get cracking. Gautam bhai, just to put it simply, and since of course I've started with that, from the beginning till the end, okay, we have already established that it was never 100% localized. Okay, so let's start with throughout what were the parts that were always imported from Japan?
Okay, so first of all, let's address the made in Japan myth. What the made in Japan is, and what it was really. Whether it was made. So to simply put, it was the level of content. So when the bike was launched in 1983, it had a high level of Japanese content in it. But certainly it was not all made in Japan, which is the general notion.
Great.
Yeah, some people think that this bike was a CBU.
So they manufactured the first 500 or 100 or 5 motorcycles, and sent those to India, and those, okay, so there definitely were CBUs, but those were not our Rajdoot 350s.
No.
Okay.
For example, in 1983 parade, those bikes were CBUs. They were RD350 A's or B's brought in a crate.
Yes.
So they were CBUs. Even we didn't even get the CKDs. They semi-knockdown SKDs or CKDs, whatever you call it, the semi-knockdown kits.
Yes.
So our Rajdoot 350 had definitely had a higher Japanese content from the start.
Initially,
but certain things were never made outside India. That kind of testified this statement that it was never 100% imported RD.
Again at the cost of repetition. So number one, even bike number, chassis number 1, it has made in Japan. 83 model made in Japan. It is not a CBU. It was not even. All the parts were not imported, from Japan, and it was, just assembled here. No, it had a lot of Indian content, and it had, of course, a lot of Japanese content as well. It was never a CBU. All right.
Correct.
Yeah.
So let's delve into some parts which were Japanese, and then we will end up with the parts which continued to be Japanese throughout the life. So,
just to I hate to interrupt, just to keep it very simple for our viewers, let's just start with let's just give them the parts that were Japanese even till 89-90.
Throughout. Okay,
Absolutely.
So those parts where I'll start from the top end. Pistons were always 1A1 imported.
Art
pistons.
So if you have someone who says that I have an 88 or an 89 or a 90 RD350, okay, bone stock, okay, and it's running on standard pistons. Those pistons were always Japanese.
And they were art.
And they were art, yes.
Later on for service, they've been localized by Mala and other companies, but standard pistons were always art. Because my bike was 1989, and it was towards the tail end, and it had art pistons.
It had art pistons.
Okay, now from there we move on to the crankcase.
Crankcase.
The crankcase has Yamaha logo, 278 part prefix on it. It had been made in Japan always.
Always.
Yes, because Escort never invested into crankcase casting and machining.
Alright.
It was complex, it was expensive, and it was not worthwhile the effort.
Alright.
And then third is the clutch basket. The clutch basket was Escort, however, tried to produce their own.
We did talk about this in the other video.
Yeah, one of the videos. They did try, but soon after they realized, probably due to potential manufacturing issues, casting defects, they went back to 278 Yamaha clutch basket. I'm just talking about the clutch basket, not the faceplate which you first see when you remove the clutch cover. That gives a false impression. That's all Nick Fuji, it is not.
Yes.
You have to disassemble the clutch and look at the main clutch basket. You will see, probably you will see a Yamaha logo, and definitely you will see 278.
278 part number. Part prefix,
Yes. Then all the seals were made by RI in Japan, ARS. All the seals.
The fourth thing. All the seals.
All the critical seals.
All the critical seals.
All the critical seals were always ARS. Some of the seals were localized, which happened to match with the current production.
Okay.
Obviously, I didn't go too much in detail, but maybe the push rod seal was localized because it was found here. But crank seals, for instance, the oil pump internal seals, some of the gearbox seals, they were made by ARS. You can see the ARS logo on them still. And if you have ARS logo, then that is a Japanese seal.
Alright.
Some of the bearings.
Bearings.
Especially the
some of the bearings.
Especially the duplex bearing on the clutch side. It is a very special double race ball bearing. That had always been Japanese. However, the sprocket side bearing was a very basic bearing, so it was localized. So was the roller pin bearings inside, they were localized. The crank bearings, I have never seen crank bearings which are other than Koyo or Japanese. Because
your bike 89 model,
it had the Japanese bearings on the crank.
Yes.
And the famous electrical system, the generator was imported.
Is it 5? I've lost track. 5th or 6th? I think 5th.
Yes.
Fifth.
So the generator was imported, including the coil magnet. There is a debate that sometime the points were made in India, but yet to be proven. But initial points were Kokuzan Denki. Capacitors were localized, hence why they were being moved outside. But the wiring part of the generator is also produced by a Japanese company, Sumimoto. So if you remove the wiring, you will see the previous name of Sumimoto put on and made in Japan, and the year 83, 84, whenever it was produced. So the RR unit, coils, rectifier, regulator unit, coils, the wiring which connects the generator to those parts, and generator itself. This was all Japanese. And
electrical, we can say that
excluding the main wiring harness, which was probably Sumimoto India, because on RX100 there was a sticker on the wiring harness, Motherson Sumi. Motherson Sumi is actually licensed just like my car and Mikuni. Similarly, Motherson Sumi is Sumimoto's localized plant here. So most likely Indian RD had the Sumimoto wiring harness locally produced, but for sure what I have seen on generators, even till 1990 bikes, they were all imported from Japan.
Alright.
Yes.
Even the rectifiers, Gautam?
Yes, even the rectifier. They had the logo of, if you clean the rectifier thoroughly, you will see that it has a Kokuzan same logo which you see on the points, on the magnet, on the generator, on the high tension coils. So
of course, even the coils.
Even I strongly believe the fork seals been the Japanese till the end, but it's not worthwhile dwelling too much into that.
Actually.
Any critical seal, any critical part, which could be expensive to produce in India in low numbers, had been carried on, been imported in India. So this is a statement that by 86, 87, the blanket statement which people gave that all the bike was localized is incorrect.
Is absolutely incorrect. And of course, Gautam Bhai's motorcycle itself is a testimonial that be it the art pistons, okay, be it again the bearings, the main bearings.
Main bearing, seals, generator, clutch.
Oh, absolutely, the generator as well. Yes. Okay, and in fact, as far as I know that now you know that this these were the parts. This was the content that was always Japanese, and even until the end. Now we talk about the first lot of motorcycles. Okay, how much was the maximum Japanese content in those bikes? In addition to, of course, something that we already discussed, we're not going to repeat that. In addition to these parts, what was Japanese?
So obviously in 1983, it wasn't possible to localize many parts as expected, as you would see later on. But looking at the teardowns of 83, 84 bikes, you could see there was a very greater level of Japanese components in there. For instance, where shall we start? The head castings could be potentially made out of the RD350A.
Okay.
However, you always see Rajdoot 350cc being mentioned on it. So, if we give it a benefit of doubt, then we could say it had been localized.
Okay.
Similarly, the barrel, the transfer port height and the exhaust port height is not same to any other RD sold outside,
yes.
Which meant that heavy modification to the tool, which meant that potentially it was localized, or it had been produced in very low numbers in Japan. We talked about the piston.
Yes.
Now coming back to the crank. The cranks had 250E 2R8 rods, which many of you may still see. So, and the bearings were imported. Then that lends to the question whether the whole crank was imported or not, because the crank weights, the flywheels, the crank doesn't have any other logo or anything other than what's seen on the rod. So we could safely say that, let's give it the benefit of doubt that it was an imported crank.
Yes. Yes.
The gearbox was imported. As I said, the clutch assembly, most likely the first few bikes before the big Fuji was made in India. It was imported. And a greater level of seals, most of them were seals and bearings were imported. And then as we have seen on the carburetor video, that initial carburetors were Mikuni made in Japan, but the mods they needed for Indian carburetor, that was indicating that it was one of their development tools which had been used for a very low number run for India.
Makes
so
sense.
The carburetors were Japanese too.
Yes.
And the generators and rest of the
course,
bits
rest of, yeah.
But things like, apparently, which is on your face, like Yankee speedometers, come on. Those Yankee speedometers are Indian. The front mudguard, none of the Japanese bike had those mudguards. The front drum brake, some of the content is R5, but the spacing between the drum brake meant that it had to be made somewhere, maybe localized. Similarly, the front fork is specialized for India. The headlight dome is specialized, not the headlight beam, which has been Koyoto or something, where proudly people take, pride of having the indicators from likes of Stanley or there's this other company. Anyhow, long story short. To go back to your question, that definitely it had a greater content, but
of course the whole bike
far greater Indianized content from the start, I would say.
Again, just a reiteration, even the first lot of RD350s had more Indian content than Japanese content.
Yeah, as you would expect. And just a last thing, cherry on the cake. Because of the capacitor relocation or condenser relocation for the point system, we needed the clearance pocket, where we have on Made in India generator covers.
Yes.
But initially, ignoring that fact that we needed clearance, we were given Made in Japan covers. It sometimes feels like that it was imposed on us. imposed in a way that we wanted to show that it is a Japanese engine made in Japan. But in real sense, the clearance which was needed from the beginning, because the capacitor position had been same from the start, it sat outside. Where the clearance was needed, it was not given. But you could say that we were not ready. The tool was not ready, hence they might have worked it out that we will be ultra careful with zero contact situation with the capacitor. So yeah, but that made in Japan was misleading. Saying that it is a Japanese bike. Well, it is not a Japanese bike. It had a greater Japanese content, but even if you compare it with a 1988 proper build, you're not missing much.
True. Because again, so if you'll see that the major components, especially the electricals, okay, those remain again at the cost of repetition. The generator, the rectifier, okay, and the points as well.
And the minor things but important, the airbox. Very early airbox were having the same size of holes, the tooling access hole for the oil tank. They were indicating they were imported airboxes.
All right.
As simple things as like. So they were mix and it was a mix and match.
So again, both the claims made by people over the years. The first one that the first lot of RD350s in India were Japanese, so that is incorrect. In fact, there is a lot more Indian content in even the first batch of RD350s than you would have ever imagined. And the second thing that until the end, by the time the production ended, okay, in fact people say that 86, 88 or 87 onwards, in fact they say that LT onwards, and of course until 88, 89 the bike was all 100% localized. Even that is not true. So now you know the truth, and I hope you like the video. I hope this was enlightening, and and what else, I guess, and please do remember to watch the other videos as well. We have busted almost more than one myth in every video, and in addition to providing more useful information. And so that was the long and short of this, and thank you so much, Gautam bhai, once again, and we'll see you soon in the next one. Thank you so much.
Thank you.